Yes, here is Don Amilcar, who owns and protects these caves and has been a great help to the project in preserving things. And they have, for visitors, they run this tubing down in the cave. And you can see now I have a better light. And so you can see better what's going on. Yo creo que debemos ya de hacerlo mismo, porque ya tenemos luz. I have now this very powerful flashlight, and you can see here the excavations. Another cave, a small one, goes off through that. There's an opening. See if I can get this. I don't know quite how this works. This new flashlight. Opening over there. I can't seem to get it to point. But, and then, you know, there's a platform there created by the Maya. And here where Efra, he's supervising this. Efra is himself Kekchi from the region, but he's been trained by one of my former PhD students, now a famous archaeologist, Brent Woodfill, who also does cave archaeology. And what he's filming here, this is really the big temple of the Maya. And as you enter to do their rituals, it's a straight down slippery slope. But what they did is they put retaining walls and then built up about, you said, ¿cómo se dice? ¿Cuántos centímetros?
De 10 al grosor son de 25-30 centímetros la nivelación, pero el carbón está de 10 a 15 centímetros. Mucho
¿Qué fue
carbón.
donde ellos hicieron ritos?
Sí,
No.
sí.
This is where he's explaining that this level area here is only about 25 to 30 centimeters thick. You know, that's, what is that? That's like a foot to 2 feet. And however, when you go down to the level at about 15 centimeters, which would have been the original level, it is just covered with carbon, which is, you know, it's good for dating, but in this case, what it really shows is this is where they did the rituals. This is where they would burn the incense, and a lot of the pots that you find in these are incense burners, and they would do, the Maya rituals are really, really very long. And they would do rituals here for a long time before entering the cave where they would do the bigger rituals. Y ese por aquí se ve.
Ah, esa es la área restringida.
Pero ese de los...
Ese es el muro de contención. Creemos que también que están quemando.
This has been proven by many excavations that Brent and his team of cave archaeologists did for his thesis work in all the caves of the region, that these big caverns, these big open areas, se puede mostrar ahí, giant openings you can see over there. This is where most of the public would do their rituals, so they created a platform there. They created one here, one over there, and then this retaining wall is supporting the platform we're on, and then you see the last retaining wall, and there would be a big flat area. And of course these constructions are rather modest, they don't need to be anything much, at 25 to 30 centimeters, but it creates something flat instead of a slippery slope. And the evidence is this is just covered with potsherds, this area, and they're still finding them, and just covered with carbon. So this is where the general population, this would be the cathedral, they would come in, se puede seguir mi linterna, they would come in through there and come down here, and on these different platforms they would burn incense burners, which we find broken all over the place, do rituals as they do today for many hours, sometimes for days. And then what's been proven in all of these, then they go in deeper in the cave for the more serious rituals. But the deeper you go, the fewer people. It becomes something where the populace would stay here. Most of them, the spiritual leaders and some elite, would go in further and do rituals in secret places. And then the very most important shamans would go further into some obscure location, possibly even traveling by the river to do the final rituals. And while, not many people would attend, everybody would be waiting here, and they would know what is going on. And this is the same kind of rituals they do today when they do the Mayahak rituals to the Sulteka. Every one of these caves has a Sulteka, which is, I don't know what you would compare it to. It's the spirit of the place. It's kind of like an angel, except they're not always very nice, and you have to keep them happy. And there's one in every one of these. We don't know how far back that goes. But the caves, we know from all of the Popol Vuh and all the conquest period myths, and also from the paintings and murals and writings of the Maya, that these were the entrances to Xibalba. These were the place where humans originally came from. This was also where the ancestors and their spirits lived. This is the most sacred place, far more than a tomb. It's like a gigantic tomb, but it's also a cathedral. And further in some of these are really closed away from the entrance. You will occasionally have an eroded spot in the roof, and you get light going through like a cathedral. So we're going to try to go in further without falling in the river. And a lot of these rituals are from all periods, but some of them are from the period of Conquent and from the period of the site that we saw. And you can see in here the Great Cavern. And this is a sort of a still lake, side lake from the river, which you can hear rushing in the distance. And we're going to now go, I don't know if I'll be able to hold this flashlight because we're going to be going through there. Looks pretty slippery, to go into one of the many, there's just hundreds of these caves, but one of the interior areas where they would do more, final rituals that were just attended by the shamans. Okay. And this is now you get it through, you're getting into narrow passages. There's always these narrow passages on ledges that are rather dangerous to get through. I may have to put this flashlight down. Part of the ritual
What's your
is
head?
the danger going through a lot of elaborate passages, which would have been much more impressive in the dark with torches. Wow. And see, look at the beautiful formations here. Okay. And so now we're going in further. Now we're going up. This is natural, no?
Yeah.
Esto es natural.
This is natural layers of the kind of formations that you get in these caves. And we're going up these steps. Ese es parece como raíces. Wow. Whoa. Aquí se ve. So we're going to keep going into the deeper recesses. Ya
Seguimos.
vamos. Okay.
Sí. Let's keep going.
You can see how this will be.
Mira esa sombra.
Awesome. Little Maya. Wow. And you see the cliff. Ese es natural también.
Yeah.
Sí.
Pero hay evidencia de ritos ahí.
Más al fondo.
Más al fondo. So that's a natural ledge here over the lake, and the rituals. And now we're talking about a further stage of the rituals
Creo que es mejor por
for
aquí.
the elites, the shamans, and so on. And they still do a lot of this today. In most of these caves, we have to. Well, the cave team has to. You can probably tell from my climbing here that I'm not a cave archaeologist. I've done some of this, which I learned means that you need to hire a team of cave archaeologists who have proper equipment, proper boots, proper light, and who can scurry around like monkeys. But these, even today, I was starting to say that we excavate in a lot of these caves with the permission and with the accompanied by the modern shamans who still do rituals in here, and they've never stopped. Brent Woodfield has a book, has two books, but one of them is about the modern stuff, which he has to, well, we do that with a lot of things, we collaborate with them. But these are still holy places, and they will tell us where it's okay to dig and where we can't. And they will do rituals wherever we do dig. Because, you know, some of these Soltecas, you just don't want to piss them off. Bad shit happens.
You can see some of the rest.
Yeah, you can see here, again, a lot of this we've already collected here, others have too, but you can see the potsherds. Most of them are burnt. And as I said, we find some that are really beautifully preserved, and they're not only freshly made to break, and this would be thousands of vessels, but they're often a special kind of pottery with specific designs that are associated with snakes and water symbols associated with the caves. Me gustaría ir por el río. Ah, yes, if you go by river in here, and these are very eroded karst towers and karst hills, as you saw from outside. And they have areas where there are erosions through the roof. And he's telling us that if you go by river, which in a tube or in a boat, about every 60 meters or so, there's some kind of little hole and you get some light in it, which makes it very impressive. You can go, the cave explorers have gone as much as 3 days in these caves. There's one explorer who's gone 6 days in the Candelaria River, which flows through these. And a lot of these rivers are tributaries of that river. And navigable, they camped in them and all, navigable by rubber boat. This is another big cavern inside that's more difficult to get to. As you saw part of our walking in. And this is an area where they would have more rituals, but there would be fewer people. You know, in this one there probably would be quite a few people, but higher up. And then again, as you go further in to more and more obscure areas, some of them probably you would have to go by boat even back then with torches. And we find murals in these and so on, almost always not very well preserved. One that's around here somewhere is in one of these caves, does show Maya, standing Maya lords from the period of Conquest in it. But all periods from periods BC, pre-classic, way back as far as 800, all the way up to the present, these were used. These are the primary areas of rituals. And some of the caves that I've excavated, well, with my project, it's multiple sub-projects, but the cave sub-project in the Pateshpatun area, we excavated in Cueva de Sangre, and 70,000 whole artifacts. And because of the cave, all of them perfectly preserved, like they had been kept in a museum.